Alright, so you've got the key housing. Very large, only because I was 3D printing it, but you can scale this down to a normal size pretty easily. Yes. Alright, so when you put the correct key in, get these. It raises all of the key pins to the correct shear height, assuming my computer doesn't fucking crash for no reason. Anyway, so you put the correct key in, and now these are all raised to shear height, so you've got nothing, no obstructions. And somebody can just turn the lock normally, and that's roughly how a lock works. Alright, here we go. Okay, so normally you put the correct key in, it raises all of these to the correct height, and you rotate it. Now, normally with a normal lock, you would just have one of these driver pin sets, and then after you pick past that, you can easily just rotate it and unlock it or lock it. Now with this one though, it's generally the same concept. So a lockpicker would have no problem getting past the first rack. The first rack does not matter. It'll hold the key, it'll hold the core from turning, but it's extremely easy to pick open, not pick open. So yeah, a normal lockpicker just would go one at a time. You could rake it, you could do a couple other things. Basically, you just get all of these on a ledge and then you can turn it. However, if you pick it open, then once you pick past these, then all these key pins will fall. I'm just going to use this one as an example, but there are 5 others. So now when you rotate past here, there's no key in. Normally you'd have a key in that raises this to the correct height, so that you could just rotate past it, and these will never fall. However, if you just picked it open, you pick past here, there's no key in here, now you rotate here, and this will fall. Now, normally you'd be like, if you were a lockpicker, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's mildly frustrating, I'll just pick it again. Now, normally, if you didn't have these here, normally you would just be able to pick it. You would just, go one at a time, raise these to the correct height, and once you get all 5 of them to the correct height, you just continue turning it and unlock it. However, what's going on here is, okay, again, you picked it open past the first one. There's no key in here, so these will fall. And again, normally you would just pick it open and it'd be completely fine. However, I'll just get rid of the middle one for the time being. So if any of these fall, though, which would happen if you picked it open, now you have these red column type things. Now with this, you have a spring that's actually pushing up against these and trying to have them kind of go into the core. Now normally, if this is just a shear height, which it always would be, the only time this would ever fall, you will never get a false alarm. The only time this will fall is if there's no pin in here. So now it falls. And now you have this, which again a spring is pushing on to try and have it close. You also have this yellow bar here, which can translate through the door and do some interesting things. So yeah, basically this fell. Now this red bar, again it's being pushed up by the spring, and now, this obstruction is out of the way, so now it's fallen. Now when a lockpicker tries to get it open, they'll still try to do the same thing, but now it's going to hit against this. So now it can never get out of the core. And you have 5 of these, so if any of them fall... And again, the lockpicker has to pick this, this pin up past the shear height, but with this having swung down, you can never get it past here, and now it is stuck within the core and the housing. Lockpicker literally cannot ever, it has no access to the top part. All it has access to is whatever it can get through the door. So now, a lockpicker is going to try to get this open, but it can't go past this height. So it's always going to be stuck in there. So now the lock is completely, it's completely bound up. You can, even if you put in the correct key, you can never get these high enough to get it out of shear height. So even if you're putting in the correct key and you're trying doing it, you're out of luck. Now there is one reset. Okay, so again, you have the door here, and this is actually a standard door, so you can actually print this out and use it as a regular door. I mean, obviously it would be pretty large, or at least you need a large key, you can scale it down really easily. It was just 3D printing it. I was kind of made it larger than it needed to be. You could probably scale it down to be a little bit larger than a regular lock, but not that much more. Yeah. So anyway, at this point in time, again, you normally have these here, but then these fell. As you can see, this translates through the door. So let's say all of these are up and resting on this, as they would. You'd have this right around here. But if this falls, and again, there are 5 of these, so if any of them falls, doesn't matter. Let's just go with that for the time being. Then this. Okay, so now somebody lock picked it open, picked past here, picked to here. Now there's no key in there, so this will fall. This will fall. And these are meshed together. Translates through the door, and this will work for a standard door. This is I think it's 2 1/8 for a regular door, and I was able to get 2 1/8. So you could maybe tolerances, like, I haven't tried it yet. Tolerances might be a little off, but anyway. So now a homeowner, assuming they're on the inside, this is the inside plate that, of the door. So if a homeowner is home, they'll just see this being up, and they're like, oh, somebody tried picking my door open. I'm furious right now. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, I could just reset it, I guess. So again, right now this is down. You can't even get it up even if you put the correct key in. It is what it is. But you've got this. Translates through the door to this. And if you watch the red, now you twist this back, and this will pull all of the red columns out of the doorway. So now when that happens, now all of these are up. So now these are all out of the keyway. So now if you put the correct key in, it will raise all of these to the correct height. Because now, again, you have the correct key in here, so all these are at the correct height. And then the homeowner just lets this go down, and all of these will fall back on their resting place right here. And all of these are cheer height. And now a homeowner can turn it just fine, and these are back at cheer height, so they won't fall again. So now so now it's completely fine, and everything is reset. And then if you put in the correct key, again, all of these will be at cheer height. You can turn it. It'll be completely fine. But if you're trying to pick it open, you would have a couple of these in the keyway. You would pick them open, apply a little bit of pressure, go one at a time, or you could rake it or some other things. And again, there are no security pins here. This is extremely easy to pick open. That's not really the point. The point of it is that after you pick it open, you still don't have a key in here, so all these will fall. And plus, as you can see with this one, it has 3 pins, but there are 2 missing. So if somebody's trying to pick the lock open, they can technically figure out the height of these pins when they're picking it open, but they're going to get absolutely no feedback on this is what, pin 3 and 4. And meanwhile, there's a pin 3 and 4. I took that out, but should be, oh, that's where it is. I guess I didn't put the joint on there correctly. Now what are you going to do? But yeah, nonetheless, you get no feedback here, so you don't know the height of the pins. You'd have to guess. And you don't even need this many. You could even have 1 or 2 here. Because again, this is just extremely easy to pick open. That doesn't even matter. But once you pick it open, then these are going to be fallen. And you rotate it, and these fall. The slides. Meanwhile, it pushes that open, which translates through the door. So you can see that somebody picked it open, and then if you want to reset it from the inside, you just go like that. It raises all the red things out of the housing. And then as you're holding this down to have all the red things out of the housing, you put in the correct key. And with the correct key, it raises all of these to shear height. And then the door is completely fine, and you can go about your day and whatnot. Alright, so if somebody's picking it open, normally you'd only have one set of, whatever it's called, the upper rack here. This time you have a second rack, so generally, and this is extremely easy to pick open. I only have 2 of these, actually. I mean, you could technically have all 5, but it actually benefits from you leaving a few out, only because if you leave a few out, like pin 2, 4, and 5, and only have 1, 3, a lockpicker, when they're picking it open, they can tell the height of these 2 pins. So they could, theoretically, if they wanted to, manufacture a dummy key that would work. However, if they don't know the 2, 4, and 5, they would not, because they're not getting any feedback, because there's nothing pushing down, they would not know those. So, just pick it open is pretty simple. Pick past the first one, but you can't get past the second one, so now... Again, you're trying to pick it open, but you cannot raise this past regular height, so... But if you just move these out of the way, then you can do it. But they don't have access to this blue bar. The blue bar... And again, you have these gear teeth here that mesh with other gear teeth that go through the door so that the homeowner can manually push this up, which would raise all of these green, whatever I'm calling them, columns or whatever, out of the keyway, and then you can continue. But without that, so again, these fall. And you can't turn it unless you actually have manipulated this over. And yeah, the faceplates here, the only access the lockpicker has is through the keyway. So they have access to these 5, but they have no access to this bar. Or to any of these green column things that are going to fall. So again, if you put in the correct key, as you can do, and then for this one, I used the same 1 and 3. I should have probably just put in... I think there was something wrong where I couldn't find. Or I think the pin number 2 didn't print very well. Because, yeah, that'll happen when you're 3D printing parts. Especially with stuff like this where you have layer lines and things need to have pretty good tolerances. But, yeah, for this one, I only included 2. But you could technically have all 5 in here. So you wouldn't know, based on picking it open the first time, the heights of 2, 3, and 5, or yeah, 2, 3, and 4, I guess. So then when you're rotating it past here, you could theoretically know the heights of this just by picking it open and seeing how high each pin stack had to be. But you're getting no feedback on these, so you kind of have to guess. And again, if any of these fall, I've only got 2 in here, you could have all 5. If any of them fall, even for a second, then you can never get this high enough to get this out of the keyway, or out of the core and the keyway, and you can never get in there. Oh yeah, you can't, because this fucking thing went down. But if the homeowner, again, wants to reset it, and I mean, yeah, this was just so a person could reset it from the inside. Technically, you don't even need that, but then you would have to actually take apart the entire door to reset it, and I didn't want that. So yeah, I just had this translate through the door to the other side so that you can at least always raise, if any of these fall, you can raise these out of the keyway. So if they fall, can't get it open, so the lock's reset. So I guess I'll just explain it. And begin where I should have begun. Okay, so you got a lock. Now this is just a standard lock so far. For the standard lock, you have the core here in the outer housing, and then you have this top part with the driver pins. Meanwhile, in the core, so then you have the pins here, and when there's no key in the thing, all these are down, and I'll just do a section analysis to make it easier. Yeah, okay, so when there's not a key in here, all these key pins are down. God damn it, yeah, I should have just locked this. That's fine. So ignore that one, because it doesn't matter. But yeah, these pins are down, so then the driver pins are down, and the driver pins are now in the housing and the core, meaning the core is bound, can't rotate, because fucks with this. That's how a key works, and then or a lock works. So then you put in the key. Let's see, did I do context sets for this? It's gonna okay, it didn't. Anyway, put in the correct key. Put in the correct key, it raises the key pins to the right height, or to shear height, right there, which means it moves the driver pins to the correct height. And now because these are on the shear line, there's nothing binding the core. So anyway, now it can rotate. Yeah, so normally when you have the lock just has one of the upper things that hold the driver pins. I think it's called a Bible. So anyway, now normally once you've put the key in there and raised all these past shear height, just rotate it and open the door, and simple. Now with this one, I added a second one of these. Now you might be thinking, oh okay, well if I can pick past this one, I'll just get here, apply some pressure to the core, you rotate it, and then you can. There are a couple different ways to do it. I'll just do it the traditional way of raising each key pin individually and applying pressure when you get the correct, or when you get to the correct height. Adjust it in a way that will lock up the driver pin above the shear height, and then you just go one at a time all the way through until you get all these out of the way, and then you picked it open. It's not that difficult, and by the way, this lock is extremely easy to pick open the first part, because the first part doesn't do anything. It just assures that the correct key is in before you can turn it, or a key, or even picking it open. It doesn't really matter, but it just will keep the thing in place, because the real mechanism. So now you're rotating it, and it only starts opening the deadbolt when it reaches right around here. Before that, you're just rotating it normally. So now if you picked it open, you would have picked all of these key pins, and you would have pushed them all to shear height and just opened it. But there's no key in here. So what you would do, if you're lock picking it open, you would just turn it regularly, and then you get here, and because because the key pins are not at shear height, these secondary pins will drop. Now, normally what would happen is the lockpicker just as easily as before would just push these up, apply some pressure, and get all of these at shear height, and then rotate it past. Not going to be an issue, not that difficult. So that's what would normally happen. However, alright, so now they picked past the second rack and can just keep rotating and get it open. However, with this one, when you're rotating it around here and you get to this point, now if you have the correct key in, all of the key pins are at shear height and you can just rotate past. However, if the key's not in here, then the key pins are down and these will fall. Now again, if it was just normal like that, a lockpicker would just pick it open again. It would be a minor inconvenience, but it's not really going to solve too much. However, if there's no key pin in here, then these fall, and you have these, forget what I'll just call them columns. So the green column, as you can see, I have the spring which both pushes down on this, and then also it's trying to push this one to the path of this. However, when this is up, it can't do that. Or it can do it, but it'll just get stuck. However, when one of these falls, now it's free to swing back down. Now you have this driver pin stuck here. Now in lockpicker, again, with these down, now they're going to try to pick it open. However, they push this up. And the thing, this is blocking it, so it can't even go up any further. So now, if you lockpicked it open, you don't have all the key pins at shear height. Rotate it. This falls. This gate goes forward. You actually have a reset bar right here. So as you can see, these are actually linked together. So when this falls, it actually pushes the blue bar forward. And then also, I just did it where I have a gear here and a... Must have. Oh, how'd those get off? Oh, I remember now. Whatever, I'll just reset it now. Just make sure that these are meshed. Yeah, it's close enough. So as you can see, this is actually linked even through the door. So you have the faceplate, which is, you have the door here. So this is inside of the door. Now, again, before the lock is picked, you have all these green things here. You have the blue, whatever it's called, that extends through here. You've got this linked here. You have the door between here, and it also, this translates through the door and to the other side. So, if somebody's picking it open, then I didn't quite line this up right. I didn't mesh these correctly the first time. Or I did, but I moved one without the joint on it, so it got off, which is fine. So as you can see, these are all linked together. So when nobody's picked the lock open, when the homeowner's looking at it, this green bar's down. However, again, you've got these green things, and they're trying to be pushed inward, but they can't because this is down. Now, if you picked it open, there's no key in there, so when you pick past here, this falls. When this falls, this pushes the bar forward. Now the homeowner, assuming they're on the inside of the house, now you see the green bar is up. So anyway, now that it's picked past here, if somebody tries to pick it open, you can't, because literally you can't push this past here, and unless you can get this past here, it's stuck in between the door and basically the core of it, so it's all bound up. However, if you're on the inside and you're a homeowner and you're like, oh, this green thing's up, yeah, somebody tried picking this open, I'm furious. But, so now, again, they picked it open, so all these have fallen, and, oh no, the door's actually completely bound up. Literally, it's completely stuck, because these are down, you can't push these out of the keyway, so even with the correct key, you can't get it open, because you can never get these out of the keyway. However, again, we've got green bar, so when you push the green bar, translates through the door to the blue bar type, whatever it is, and you pull this down, and when you pull this down, it moves all of these green things out of the way. So now, turn this back on. So now none of the green bars are blocking this. So now you can actually put in the correct key here. Because I didn't ground that, I can't really do that all that easily. Screw it. So now you put in the correct key. It raises all the correct key pins to the correct height, which now moves all these out of the way. Turn off section now says, and again, you can, now you have all of them out of the way, and you can turn it. And now when you set this down, again, these want to rotate back, and the door is completely operable again. So if you're trying to pick it open, you can pick past the first one. It's not going to be difficult. There are no safety pins. It's extremely easy to do. That's not the point. But when you rotate it past the second one, these are all going to fall, because of course they are. And you can think, oh, I'll just... because there really isn't too much you can do about it. Because especially since the first one, you don't really even need all 5 pins. You really only need 2. And again, this is not the difficult part to get past. It really doesn't matter. It just needs something that has lifted these up. So you can pick past it. It doesn't care. But when you do that, and you've got no feedback on the other 2 pins, and those 2 pins have these associated with it. So Lockpicker has no idea the height of these, and they can't guess because they're not going to get any feedback until they rotate to here. Meanwhile, they would need all the key pins to be at the exact right height, because it only takes 1 to fall for this to push forward and block it up. Meanwhile, it has triggered this, so homeowner can see somebody tried breaking in. I'm still furious about that. Well, at least the lock's fine. They are probably just going to go through the window now, but at least you're secure in knowing that nobody's getting past the fucking lock. So anyway, you got this. So every time you try to do it, and the lock is completely bound up. Again, even with the correct key, you can't do it because it can't get past this height. So it's completely bound. But if you're on the inside, and somebody tried breaking in, then you completely disassemble the lock as far as somebody's on the inside doing it. Then you just pull this down, go to the other side, put in the correct key while these are up. And then when these are up, you let this go back down. These try swinging back down, but these are at the correct height. So it completely is reset, and the lock is completely fine. That's pretty much it. There's a little bit more to it. I did add this mechanism if you're trying to do a plug spinner and try spinning it really quickly. You get past this one, then try spinning it so fast these don't have time to fall. And there's a way to bind it up if you're trying to rotate too fast. Not gonna get into that because that's just it. Honestly, it's no. I mean, a lockpicker would try that, but at that point they probably just have already triggered this. Because again, you only have one shot. If you just rotate it past here and just one of these falls once, you're completely locked out because you can never push this forward. Well, this is blocking it, so you can't push this up past the shear height, so it's stuck between here. And you can reset it, assuming you can get into the house or somebody was inside when that happened. You could just reset it by, on the inside, just pushing this down. This lifts all of these green bars out of the way. You put in the correct key. Now all of these are at shear height. You lower this. They want to fall, but they can't. This is out of the keyway, and you can just rotate it. So yeah, it's pretty much unpickable. And the lockpicker doesn't have access to anything. Obviously, I think I just 3D printed it without these parts. Obviously, this would be completely encased, so you can't do anything. This is just for demonstration purposes. But yeah, it'd be completely encased. The only thing a lockpicker would have access to is what they can fit through this, or into the core. So after one of these are bound, it has no way of doing anything to this. So it's completely bound up and you can't really get through it. So that's basically it. There's more to it, but it's basically it. There's a completely different model and a couple others that are in various stages of, well, they were fine for the time. Oh, this one was fucking crazy. I remember this. I mean, it's completely unnecessary, but it'd be an interesting project. And then you have these, which are, or wait, that's the second generation. This is the first generation. Yeah, I guess I'll get to this too. So, since we've already established how a lock works, again, you have the first set of things. These aren't difficult to get past. There are no safety pins, no tricks. It doesn't fucking matter about getting past the first one. And you put the correct key in. All of these go to the correct... I thought I had joints in here. I guess I... it doesn't matter. I'm not going to put them on there. There's really no reason. So, it's the exact same thing where you get past here, and then you get to here. Now, with this one's kind of an interesting one. All right, so you have this gate here. This was the first generation of them. So instead of, well, it's basically the same concept, where if you get past here, there's no key pin putting it at shear height, so this falls. How do I not have any joints or contact sets on here? I'll just do it for one. It won't take very long. There, it's fine. Motion slide, yes, and then I'll just put on a... Oh, it's because I didn't ground this. Alright, grounded that. Because if you're doing joints, you have to ground at least one component so that the thing knows. So that slides back and forth. And gonna put it here. So yeah, you're putting it here, and these are on shear height. So you rotate it, and if the correct key's in, then all the key pins are the shear height, so you can just rotate past it, no problem. Just like a regular lock, you do that. Let me just really quickly put on a contact set between here and here. So you rotate past here and you're completely fine if you have the correct key in. However, if you rotate past here without the correct key, what's going to happen is this is going to fall. Now as this falls, again, this is slanted and you have a gate here. So you push this. Let me turn off some of these things. I'll just do this really quickly. So normally, this, at least I have this on here. You have this, which is just a sliding thing. As you can see, it's different than this one. These are all key pins. This is a kamikaze pin. And it's not associated with any of the key pins. It's its own thing. So normally, I'll just put on a section analysis. So now normally, this is raised up. I think I did the wrong version of this. Because this shouldn't be as... whatever, it's an easy fix. Just pick those three faces. If this computer wasn't so laggy, this would be way easier. But, alright, there we go. Yeah, that's about right. What the fuck is... Alright, that's fine. Damn it! That's because there's a joint on there. Why is it like this? I mean, I guess the next most logical thing is just to bring this up. That's fine. Alright, so anyway, wherever I was at. So, you have this as the sliding thing, and right here, it's stuck. So, what's going to happen is this one is always raised up. So, when you're rotating this, why is that? That's stupid. Just because it's unnecessarily... I don't know why this is off. It's not a huge deal, but it's not a huge deal. That's fine. Then whatever, I'll just do it. It's fine. I think if I didn't have section analysis on, I would have gotten the correct, because I think I was missing one face, and that's why. Damn it! Isn't even a big deal, but might as well get it right. I think it's because I was using the second generation gate with the first generation kamikaze bin. I really keep a good track of whatever I've been doing. Whatever, that's close enough. Because at least that's out of the way now. So normally when you rotate past here, all these driver pins with the correct key in, rotates past fine, these never fall. However, if you picked it open, then the key pins right here are not at shear height. So when you rotate past it, it's just the one, alright, I think it was pin 1 that mattered. So again, you rotate past, pin 1 isn't here, so this gets pushed out. Now when this is pushed out, this was hanging on this ledge. So now, and again you have the spring which is pushing it down. So now these have fallen, and the lockpicker's like, I'm mildly inconvenienced, but I'm not really all that furious yet. So then they pick this open again, they get all these to the shear height, and now the gate is going to close. However, the gate can't close all the way because, again, this is already pushed down too far. And there's no way to get it past or get it high enough for it to reset, at least not now. So now when you're trying to turn it, you can't turn it past here. And you need to turn it past here to start unlocking it. So now you're stuck. However, this might screw up my computer a little bit because this context set's a complicated one. Well, let's see what happens. That's new context set. That should be fine. So again, this is getting pushed down, and you rotate here, and you basically can't get past here because it's stuck right there. In the Fusion 360 software, it kind of gives it a little bit of leeway, so it doesn't anyway. But you rotate it past here. This is always being pushed down, so you can never actually unlock it because this is now always going to bind the core. Well, it would if this. It's at a weird angle. But basically it bound the core, so you can't get past there. So now a lockpicker's completely screwed. So he's already picked past here. He can't go past, can't go forward here, so now he has to rotate here. These fall again and push the gate. Now he has to pick past here. Now if he tries picking past here again, he can't do it because that kamikaze pin's always going to be pushing down against the core. So you actually have to pick it open the other way. So now you rotate past these. Now these fall again because they picked it open and didn't do anything else. So these fall, so then he has to pick past here, go toward the locking direction. Now there's a reason you go toward the locking direction, to reset it. This resets from the outside, but a little bit complicated. So again, I was worried it was going to do that. So now you're picking it, or you're rotating it here, and so you've got this little hill. Now the hill pushes this up. Now when it pushes it up, it pushes it back to the height it would need, so that again, this gate's trying to close, and when it's like this, it can't, but after it pushes past here, and the gate completely resets. So you pushed it past here to reset it, and you push it here, the gate's closed. So now it's going to rest back on the ledge, and it's completely fine. So now this is back up, and he's rotating. When you rotate it, get to here, these fall again, you have to re-pick it open. You keep turning it, and you can actually see, I'll just turn this off for now. That's probably easier to see. So now these are fallen, and you rotate past here. Actually, I'll just do it on this side. I have too many context sets on here, so sometimes it gets really laggy. And this isn't Fusion 360's fault. This is the fault of how terrible my computer is, because it's all hacked to shit and whatever else. So again, these have fallen down, so there's nothing holding these back. So now you rotate past here. Again, there's no key pin pushing it up. So this again will fall and push the gate forward. With the gate being pushed forward, this one falls again. And again, you would re-pick this open to get this one out of the core. Gate falls back, but again, the gate, this is too far down, so it doesn't have its ledge anymore. So now you're turning it, and you run into this. So you can't continue to turn it because you're stuck here, where this is in the housing and the core. So you're done. So then you have to turn it the other way. These fall again. You have to re-pick it open. And then you get past here, where the little mound rotates and pushes this back up. And this gets stuck here. And then you can rotate it. Now, if you put the correct key in, so let's say you're back here and the lockpicker gave up, Now the door is not completely reset yet. Well, actually, it is, but just because you already rotated past here and here. But if you didn't, so anyway, you put the correct key in, goes to the correct key height or shear height, rotate past here. None of these have fallen. The ledge is not taken out, and as you can see, because this one is on the ledge right here, because the gate's never gonna fall as long as you have the correct key in. As long as all the key pins are at the right height, then it never gets pushed past, and this one never drops. So this one is open, so all of these are fine, and this is on the ledge. So now you rotate past here. None of these fall because you have the correct key in, and this no longer blocks it because this is here, stuck here. So now the lock is completely free, and you can turn it regularly. But if anybody tries to pick it open, it falls. Rotate past here. Any of these fall, which pushes this gate open. That goes down, and you can't go past here to unlock it. That's the basic strategy there. So, and yes, if you're a lockpicker, if you had unlimited attempts, you could eventually figure out what the size of this is, and then manufacture a key. But I mean, at that point, you're probably just gonna break into somebody else's house. Because if you're gonna manufacture a key, unless you really want to get in. But then again, you probably just go through a window. So I'm pretty confident this is good enough. And then the other one fixes that problem. But it's not even all that much more work. I don't know. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. But I'm not gonna redo it because I'm fucking tired of this project. Anybody can use this Creative Commons BYSA 4.0 license. SA is share alike, so if anybody makes minor changes, you also have to put it in public domain. And the license means that it's free for anybody to use, modify, sell. I do not give a fuck about any of this. So yeah, it's free for anybody. It's basically Creative Commons, but there does need to be attribution to Releveler or basically anything. And I just do that because it's much harder for somebody to try to patent something that I already made. So, but I don't care about this. Anybody can really make it or use it or whatever the fuck they want to do with it. I don't care anymore.